You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
Welcome back. We're talking about the health of the film industry in these difficult economic times with our guest, Johnny Griffin, who is the director of the Wilmington Regional Film Commission, and Bill Vasser, who is executive vice president of EUE Screen Gems. Johnny, how competitive is the business of getting film projects to locate here in Wilmington?
It is more competitive than it's ever been. Used to, decisions were made on where films were shot based on a location, a look. Now it has gotten extremely competitive in that incentives are the tool that's being used these days. Tax incentives, rebates, and it seems like every legislative session that goes by, a new state comes online with a greater incentive plan. Michigan now has a 42% incentive.
We're going to talk more about what we offer and where we stand in relation to competition with that. But Bill, from your perspective, how competitive is the business?
Extremely, just as Johnny said. And part of the job that Johnny and I have and the state has in competing for this business is to educate the producers, educate the studios, the difference between 42 and 15. We have the infrastructure here. Michigan has no infrastructure.
They just have tax incentives.
They just have tax incentives. So everything has to come in from the outside. So if you have a location that's better suited here and the resources are here, it may be less expensive or the same for you to shoot in Wilmington.
All right, so it's Hollywood or LA and New York, and then where? It's a toss-up?
New Mexico, Louisiana, Michigan.
More than North Carolina?
Yes.
Really?
Connecticut. Those are all states that are leading with the incentive, and that's what's attracting their business.
Well, you mentioned some of the advantages that we offer. Tax incentives is one. We're at what, 15?
15%, correct.
So that's off the explain how that works for our viewers.
Essentially, when they come into the region and spend money on payroll, goods and services, purchases, rentals, whatever they spend in North Carolina, then the state gives them back 15% of what they've spent.
It's not only an economic issue, but it's become a political issue as well. Mm-hmm. Because an election turned on that, some people say, the last state senate election. Are there any city and county additions to that?
Not with cash, no.
So how much would you say the industry contributes to the state economy?
In 2007, which is the last year we've actually had figures compiled for, the Wilmington region itself, film companies spent approximately $100 million locally here. Statewide, it was about $160 million.
So we got the lion's share of
certainly
what happened in the state.
Certainly.
And what you say, Louisiana and New Mexico are our other biggest competitors?
Very much so.
For film?
Very much so. And again, this business there is built strictly on the incentives. Some of these states, we don't expect those to last because there's a certain amount of, it's almost like if you're running a business, there's a certain amount of discount that you can give that still works for you. But once you step across that line and go too far with it, then it really starts to have a negative impact.
So your job is to sell the state and more specifically the region.
Right.
How do you pitch us?
We pitch us as being experienced, which means a lot to folks. We go to Los Angeles and have meetings with folks that are going to some of these new states to produce films, and they say it's tough. It's not easy to work there. It's very difficult. I have producers call me usually once a week from these other states looking for crew people because they can't find crew.
So they got the incentives and then they have nothing.
Exactly.
To make the film.
And that means something to these producers to know that they can come here and on day one start making their film.
Yeah.
Not come here on day one and start to think, okay, now what state do I go to get the resources that aren't available here? They know that everything's available here, and that's a big comfort to them.
You mentioned location. I always thought that our area had a big advantage because we can look like a lot of different places. Is there anything to that? Do we have an advantage like that?
Certainly. We're very nondescript. If you want to look southern, we can give you a location that's southern. If you want to look northeast, we can look northeast. We do have seasons, so we can give you the look of seasons. If you want, I had a call the other day from a company needing to shoot a commercial in January, and they need it to look like summertime. And we can do that here. We sent them pictures of a house that has ryegrass in the lawn, a live oak tree, and so it can be done here. So we are very versatile in our looks, and that's a great thing that works for us.
In fact, Secret Life of Bees was shot in the dead of winter, and
Yeah.
the story took place in the summer.
Was that a big project?
It was a good-sized project. It was a very visible project with very well-known people, an extremely well-known producer, a very popular book. So it provided revenue to the area, but also a certain amount of panache for us.
How much does the bottom line mean to who gets the business? Is it everything, or are there other factors?
Nowadays it is, but they do have to go where the resources are. And that's why, and I know we're going to get into this a bit later, we're building this mammoth stage. And there are only a few of them in the world that are going to be able to do what this stage does. And we're looking as a way to bring business to Wilmington. We have to think beyond the incentive.
We're going to talk about that new facility. It could be game-changing, and we'll come back and talk about that. Our show this morning is about the film industry. Our guests are Johnny Griffin, who is director of the Wilmington Regional Film Commission, Bill Vasser, executive vice president of EUE Screen Gems. Stay with us. We'll be right back.